Inside every Nvidia Blackwell rack, the optical transceivers consume more power than half the GPS they connect to. At 1.6 terabits per port, the laser bill is bigger than the memory bill. A single GB200 rack now burns 5 kilowatts on transceivers alone. The bottleneck nobody is talking about, and it's about to break. Welcome to co-packaged optics. Here's the part that doesn't add up. The companies selling the lasers are not the ones who win this. The companies that own the switched chip are eating their lunch. Let's start with what gets disrupted. A pluggable optical transceiver is a small metal cage that slides into the front of a switch. Inside it, a laser, a modulator, a photodetector, and a digital signal processor, the DSP. It converts electrical signals from the switched chip into light, sends that light over fiber, then converts it back at the other end. In 2020, the dominant module was 400 gig, about 10 watts. By 2023, 800 gig, about 15. Today, 1.6 terabit pluggables exist, burning 25 to 30 watts each. A single AI rack can carry hundreds of them. That is the cliff. So why is co-packaged optics finally happening? 3 things converged in 2025. Power first. At 1.6 terabits per port, transceiver power per rack now rivals GPU power. A Nvidia GB200 rack with full 800 gig optics burns roughly 5 kilowatts on transceivers alone. CPO cuts that by 3.5 to 5 times. Density. Pluggable cages take front panel space. Co-packaged optics integrate the optical engine directly onto the switch ASIC substrate, eliminating cables, faceplates, and signal integrity penalties from running 10 centimeters of copper between the ASIC and the cage. Reliability. Fewer plugs, fewer failures. Nvidia claims 10 times higher resiliency for CPO versus pluggable transceivers, translating to 5 times longer sustained runtime for very large-scale AI training jobs. Here is the moment the industry crossed the line. March 18, 2025, GTC keynote. Nvidia announced 2 CPO-based switches. Quantum-X for InfiniBand. Spectrum-X Photonics for Ethernet. The Quantum 3450LD has 4 CPO sockets, 144 ports running at 800 gig, 115 terabits per second of non-blocking bandwidth. Liquid-cooled, no pluggables. Quantum-X commercial availability, second half 2025. Spectrum-X Photonics, second half 2026. This was the signal. Nvidia is not waiting for the merchant transceiver market to catch up. It is partnering directly with TSMC for silicon photonics chip production and pulling the supply chain forward. Once Nvidia commits to CPO inside the box, every other switch vendor either follows or watches their roadmap die. Broadcom did not flinch. In 2025, Broadcom announced Tomahawk 6, codenamed Davisson, the industry's first 102.4 terabit per second Ethernet switch with co-packaged optics. Double the bandwidth of any pluggable-based competitor. Broadcom's AI revenue hit $20 billion in fiscal 2025, up 65% year-over-year. Fiscal 2026 guidance, $40.4 billion. Total AI backlog, $73 billion across XPS and networking. CPO-enabled switch backlog alone exceeds $10 billion. Here's the strategic point. Broadcom owns the switch ASIC, owning CPO means owning the optical interface too, eliminating the $8 to $12 of bill of materials per port that pluggable transceiver vendors use to capture. The merchant transceiver business model gets squeezed from above. If the ASIC owners take the box dollars, where does the supply chain money go? 3 layers below the switch. Continuous wave laser sources. CPO still needs light, generated by external laser modules feeding the package via fiber. Coherent and Lumentum dominate this. Coherent runs 4 indium phosphide wafer fabs and is doubling capacity in 2026 and 2027. Lumentum is the only supplier shipping 200 gig per lane EML lasers at scale, required for 1.6 terabit signaling. The DSP and electrical interface. Marvell and Broadcom share this. Marvell shipped its 200 gig per lane 1.6 terabit DSP in fiscal 2025. Celestial AI, Series C, $4 billion valuation, backed by AMD and Fidelity, remains independent, competing with Lightmatter L200 for ASIC substrate optical I/O. Both are private disruptors hyperscalers are watching closely. Optical packaging and assembly. That is Fabrinet. Optical was 76% of fiscal 2025 revenue, $3.4 billion total. Now the pure-play optical names. On March 2, 2026, Nvidia committed $4 billion split between Coherent and Lumentum, multi-year purchase commitments. The switch ASIC owner locking in its laser supply. Coherent, ticker COHR, fiscal 2025 revenue, $5.81 billion, up 23%. Roughly 25% share of the global transceiver market, the volume leader. Named partner with Nvidia on Spectrum X Silicon Photonics. At OFC 2026 in March, Coherent demonstrated a 6.4 terabit socketed CPO module. Going up the stack into CPO, not just selling around it. Lumentum, ticker LITE, fiscal 2025 revenue, $1.65 billion, up 21%. Cloud and networking now over 60% of the mix. First quarter fiscal 2026, $534 million, up 58% year over year. The narrower bet, but the EML laser monopoly at 200 gig per lane is real. Coherent is the volume play. Lumentum is the irreplaceable input. The Nvidia $4 billion commitment validates both, differently. Now the volatility trade. Applied Optoelectronics, ticker AAOI, 2025 revenue, $456 million, record. Fourth quarter alone, $134 million. The setup: in December 2025, AAOI received its first volume order for 800 gig data center transceivers from a major hyperscale customer. Production capacity exited 2025 at over 100,000 units per month, 40% manufactured in the U.S. 2026 guidance, more than $1 billion. Over double the prior year. If hyperscaler orders flow as guided, AAOI doubles. If even one major customer slips a quarter, the stock halves. The risk-reward is binary. The small cap that captures what the China names cannot ship to U.S. restricted accounts. Two more names round out the picture. Arista Networks, ticker ANET, fiscal 2025 revenue, $9 billion, up 28.5%. 800 gig port shipments tripled sequentially in second quarter. Arista holds the #1 branded share for both 800 gig and overall data center Ethernet switching among hyperscalers. AI backend Ethernet accounted for over 67% of switch sales in third quarter, per Del Oro, and Arista captures most of that. Ciena, ticker CIEN, WaveLogic 6 is the industry's first 1.6 terabit single-carrier coherent optic. 20 new WaveLogic 6 Extreme customers added in first quarter fiscal 2025. The data center interconnect market, connecting facilities, not racks, is where Ciena dominates with 800Z are pluggables. 11 names on one screen. What jumps out? Coherent at $5.8 billion revenue. Arista at $9 billion. Marvell at $5.77 billion. Broadcom, the elephant, with $20 billion in AI revenue alone. These four control the architecture. Lumentum at $1.65 billion, Fabrinet at $3.4 billion, Ciena at $4.4 billion, the irreplaceable component layer. AAOI at $456 million, the binary upside. Cisco, $54 billion total, but optical is a sliver. Nvidia is not a transceiver vendor but is the customer that defines the spec. The non-listed names matter too. Lightmatter L200 and IR Labs, private disruptors targeting ASIC substrate optical I/O. InnoLight and Eoptolink in China together captured 60% of Nvidia's 800 gig orders. Inaccessible to U.S. public investors. Both face the same CPO disruption risk. What happens next? CPO ramps slowly inside Nvidia and hyperscaler walled gardens through 2026. Pluggable unit share peaks in 2027. By 2028, CPO is the new normal at 51.2 terabit and above. Watch 3 signals. Nvidia Quantum-X commercial sockets by year-end 2026, above 10,000, CPO is real. Below 2,000, rollout is delayed. Marvell quarterly electro-optics revenue, above 500 million per quarter mid-2026 confirms 1.6 terabit DSP traction. Below 300, the cycle is slipping. Lumentum EML capacity, any third or fourth fab announcement signals 200 gig per lane demand is exceeding plan. Catalysts up, Broadcom Tomahawk 7, AAOI second hyperscaler win. Catalysts down, hyperscaler capex pause, Nvidia in-house transceiver acceleration. Upstream, indium phosphide wafers, EML lasers, silicon photonics fabs at TSMC. Downstream, every Nvidia rack, every Broadcom switch, every hyperscaler back-end network. The lasers consume more power than the GPS. The switch ASIC owners eat the cash flow. CPO is the architecture shift. These 11 names tell you who wins. I'm Big Z, follow me, see you in the next deep dive.